Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. Today we radiate blissfulness with N.T. Hettigei, who is the author of Beyond Our Self-Image, the true story of a fictional character, which I think is very, very intriguing. Hello, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Christy. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
I'm
Glad to
happy.
be with you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. Now, this is actually your third book, right?
That's right. Yeah. I have been self-publishing throughout since 2009. And my first book was Are You a Philosopher or a Sage? And that was published in 2009. And in 2019, just before the pandemic, I published another book. It's called Explore Within, A Journey to Inner Peace, which would have helped most of the people during the pandemic, I hope. And so subsequently, I thought that there was some constructive criticism on that book that I have been referring to so many philosophers and sages. So I thought I'll eliminate those and then make a better approach and then give a better view of this message. And then I thought, yeah, I will write this book. So this book based on those two books which I have written already.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to go to those two books if you are reading this book.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So what intrigued me about this was the true story of a fictional character. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. In fact, actually, Christy, if you think about our life, we actually built up our life is with a different concept and with some other people's opinion. So if I give an example, like if you look at a toddler or a baby, you can see that really they are really radiating blissfulness all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think about that once we were introduced that, okay, you have a name, yes, you are, and all that comes to you, sink into you, and then that blissfulness just goes away. And then you start thinking about me, this is my toy. This is my toy, Even at the very beginning, babies, they don't call this as a my toy. They call it baby's toy, right? Because the actual, our true self would not recognize a name or anything, or even the gender. I think you might recall your childhood, and we didn't have any clue of whether he's a boy or a girl, right? We were just playing with. So that's the blissfulness I'm talking about, which we lost.
Yes. So really the blissfulness of being ignorant of that in a way, of not knowing that we're separate.
Exactly. I would rather than ignorance, but not knowing, because ignorance has a negative connotation, right?
Right. I mean, literally it means not knowing.
Not knowing.
We have bastardized it since then. So yes, this blissfulness of just not realizing how separate we are.
Exactly. And so what happened is when we get older, we accumulate so many other things like I have to be somebody and I have to have so much of money and I have to be happy and I have to be satisfied and all those things, kind of a concept that we built upon on that our blissfulness, which will actually cover or the veil that blissfulness which we have already. Even you, I can see your blissfulness from right now. Because I can see that your smile and then through the smile and then inner peacefulness. That is why you're listening to me with all this different accent even. You have that empathy to listen to me. So all that is that because of your inner blissfulness that you have, which we forgot, which has gone more deeper core into us and then we don't see that. So that is why I said the fictional character is the one that really keeping it down, keep it in a bay. So we are really living with that fictional character all the time. We don't see that as a fictional character because we are really inside that our mind, which is with some limitation, give that fictional character and try to portray somebody else than that our true self. So that is why I title this book as you need to go beyond your self-image, which is that character, which is a fictional.
Which is fictional because it changes with every incarnation.
Exactly. Yes, when you say incarnation, normally people think about that really you have to reborn for that, but you don't have to reborn every moment. Actually, you are reborn. Like as soon as you hear something like what I'm saying right now, your thinking pattern, your character just change a little bit. Oh, he's saying something, right?
Ooh,
So then that goes to your core, and from that moment onward, you will be a different person. You see?
I see. Right. It's semantics. These are things that I've learned, I believe. Yes, all of these different parallel realities that we can quantum jump between. We're really saying the same thing, but I like how you put it in the terms of a fictional character that changes all the time. So the story can change.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and then I have given an example in the book, like as I was talking to you before this recording, that my name is a long name, but I have changed that name every time when I migrated to New Zealand. And they didn't know the actual format of this name because our name is different format. That my surname comes first, and then the last name is my given name. So I had to change all that. And when I moved to US, I have to change my name again, and I have put a registration and then said that really, okay, change it to this. And
Mm.
similarly, your life, always I'm giving my name as the example. But when you think about it, your character from your childhood throughout this whole years, how many years you have lived, it has changed. Every time it has changed. So it's a fictional character in that sense. But I go a little more deeper than that to say that it's a fictional character just because of that thing that I mentioned in the earlier, that we were born with blissfulness.
Mm.
As a toddler, we were blissful. But as soon as we realize, oh, this is me, and this is my name, and this is, oh, I am a boy, and then, oh, I am a girl. And likewise, you just, build up that fictional character. Like what you do in a stage, like you come and then make yourself as a King Lear or somebody like a character in that story,
Hey,
right?
you put your costume on, you put your fake nose on, you put your wig on,
Exactly. That's
put your
right.
character shoes on. Yes.
Yeah, and then some makeup, and then you're a totally different person. But as soon as you get down from the stage, you go back to your normal self. So that is the analogy I'm portraying on this book as well. Because that person who's on stage is actually our normalized self. When I say normalized self, because we take this as a normal. Oh, this is myself. But it is not. Actually, your self is more deeper and very blissful, and you have the true happiness in there, inner peace in there.
Where do you feel this happiness and inner peace comes from? What is that about?
It is about actually as I said earlier, that really the fictional character is it's veiling our happiness. This is actually our core. Even when we were born, we have that alertness, right? You could remember that, okay, when a newborn just come out, open eyes, his or her eyes, and look around, right? That's our alertness, our attention. So that attention is the actual blissfulness in us. But that attention deviate later on after being toddler, and then you've grown up a little bit, and then you were given a different dress to wear because you are a boy, you're a girl, and that kind of external input comes to our core, and then we just covered with that. Like you're painting something, say you get a clay pot and then you paint it on, right? So it's just like that you are painting all these ideas and then bringing into you, and then you have that fictional character. But in fact, actually, that blissfulness is already there, and it has been there all the time, right? Even right now, you do have. If you just take a moment and ignore my noise, I'm going to stop my talking, and I'll give you a little space. Just focus your attention to that space.
I would encourage anyone listening now just to do this exercise along with me.
Exactly. So try it again. Give your 110% attention to that space or the stillness coming through just after I stop. Do you feel it?
I do. Those of you watching on
That's,
YouTube, you'll see I closed my eyes just as a way to focus in, but
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You can actually keep your eyes open as well. You can do this sometimes when you are, walking in the park. You just look at a tree, and then the tree and yourself, there's a space in between, you see? So focus on that space rather than the tree. And
Mm.
you would feel that happiness, that blissfulness coming through from the nature.
So for you, what is that secret sauce of the space? What is that space and what does it do for us?
I don't want to take too much of your time, but I would like to ask you a few simple favors. First of all, please rate, review, and share this podcast wherever you're listening. It sounds like a simple little thing, and it is, but it has a huge impact for us because it helps other people find us in the podcasting algorithms. I don't know how it works, but I do know that it helps a lot. Next, if you would subscribe or follow wherever you're listening, whether that's YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, wherever you're listening, just hit subscribe or follow, and that helps you and it helps us. It helps you because then you receive notifications when we have a new episode that's out. It helps us because, again, algorithm magic, I don't know what happens, but it helps. And then finally, you can support our podcast in a tangible way by going to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/podcast and then click on support the show. Now, we have a new feature too. We are now on Patreon. You can find us on Patreon. You can also find the link to Patreon when you go to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/podcast. So on Patreon for $3 a month or $5 a month, you can support your metaphysical and spiritual growth. You can learn about upcoming guests and you can get early and ad-free versions of the shows. So please support us. This podcast is free for you to listen, but we have costs, and quite frankly, they come out of my pocket. So if you like this content, if you get a lot out of it, please see what you can do to give back. Thank you so much.
That space give you the room to enjoy yourself or enjoy that blissfulness.
Yeah. Goes by so many different names, I think, and so many different practices. I'm thinking of another guest who was on the podcast to talk about awe, 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 but he broke it down into a formula. It's attention, wakefulness, and excitement, or something like that. But to break down this feeling of awe. So there's that. There's also the practice of mindfulness to quiet the mind, to still the mind, and find that space there. Also, I talked to somebody else on the podcast about the liminal spaces, the spaces between that literally exist between. So all of these things are tying together right now
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
accentuate that space.
Yeah, that's all we have in all this universe. So that is why it's been explained in different ways, as you explained, Christy.
Mm.
So I take a different approach. You could see in the book, I take a different approach. Like current right now, you do have that attention that I was talking about, which you were born with as a baby. That attention is there. That is why you're listening to me. Everybody who's listening to us.
I would even call it curiosity, like
Yeah,
eager to know. Yeah.
oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I had to disturb you. It's not ego to listen to it, but in fact, just the pure attention I'm talking about. Pure
Yeah.
attention. No any emotion into that. Just pure attention. You're just pure with your pure attention without any prejudice or without any concept. You're just listening to me,
Yeah.
right? So that pure attention is some cases actually in our day-to-day life, we have developed it in a higher level now. Like some people maybe have been in kind of a motivational speakers. What they do is they actually bring up your awareness a little bit higher level, to a little much higher level, right? So that is that attention, you are bringing it to a higher level. So then you have the full attention to everything, and then you can do a lot of jobs with more precisions or more systematically, kind of thing, right? So that is why the CEOs and all this, they like to go to meditation sessions and then meditate and then bring their awareness to a higher level so then they can manage everything. So that's the second layer, like what you do have. But in my book, I take that as the first layer of, okay, you have to have that attention to live wisely in this world, right? And then actually you have to take that attention to a more deeper level, like, our humanity. And then I call it that as your noble heart. You're taking that attention to the noble heart. Yeah, that you have the empathy around everybody and empathy with whatever happening in your life, and actually the taking those challenges as it comes. So that I categorize as the noble heart. And I mean, the majority of the people here, I think they are now looking for it. And some people, they call it as, secular mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then with that, you build up that empathy and then you try to help people support. Now, if something happens, I can remember when that tsunami happened back in Sri Lanka. Everybody was so empathetic. And then I can remember my neighbor comes to me and then was telling me, how can I help them? How can I help? Can you send some money to Sri Lanka and all that? Actually, in our community, we had a kind of a good association created by my neighbors, all these neighbors in Minnesota. And they want to give money and then they actually travel with us to Sri Lanka to build some houses and all that. So that is the heart. That is your kind heart. That is your noble heart. So that is how I see it. So that's the second stage. In the book, you can see that I have given it nicely with a little diagram depicting what it is. So with that heart, you have to go a little bit deeper than that. So in that heart, actually, when you build up that kind of, when you recognize your noble heart, you don't have any discrimination against this country, that person, that nation, or even a color or anything shouldn't be there. So in the book, you could see that I do have a list of or the index of practices which I recommend. Yeah, in that practices on the very top, I have the practice of the unleashing identity. So that the identity that I was talking about that really was given to you as a baby, kind of, okay, you're a boy, you are, and then you are this kind, and you are this.
Mm-hmm.
All that has to be eliminated or let it go. And then to become that kind of, bring up your blissfulness, which you already had or already have right now, even when you were a child, right? So that's the first practice I recommend people to do, in the sense that really let go of that, all this concept of discrimination for each other. I mean, even in my case, I wouldn't see a difference between boy and girl or any gender, any kind of sexual orientation. It doesn't matter to me. It was like that from my childhood. I have written in the book on my story. In that story, I was just telling about how I didn't care on any of those differentiations. And that gave me a good kind of a solid ground for me to travel around, live with different kind of communities and societies, and still be happy or still be peaceful. So I hope that I answer your question that really, okay, this is my analogy or the indication of what's the bliss means.
Yes. And I am understanding more and more the more that you explain where you're coming from with this. It's like, yes, I already have the language for this and am adding to that language with blissfulness. I think this is the perfect word for it because it kind of reflects an innocence in that joy
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
purity of that joy. Now, in your book, you talk about 17 practices. You've walked us through a couple. Explained a couple. What are your favorite practices to stimulate and give readers a more profound revelation of their true selves?
I have to qualify with one additional practice, not the favorite, but it has to have. I mean, you have to have this very first practice to go to my favorite practice, because that is that first practice that I was talking about just now, that you have to let go of that all the different identities you have. So when that goes away, actually the last practice which I showed is actually letting go. That is the practice that you will actually take. It will take you into the deepest level of your inner peace, and then it will actually stay there for forever.
When we find that inner peace, that core of inner peace, how does that feel? How do we know that we've gotten there?
So it's like you will feel all the time. You may see that I feel it all the time. But as a litmus test, as you ask for, like you don't have any friction in you. When I say any friction in you, in the sense that I know the people will get angry sometime, but most of the people now, they know how to control the anger when it comes through, right? So it comes through to you, and then you hopefully it won't even showing in your face because you can just control it. But in this case, you don't have that either. So that's a very nice analogy from ancient teachings. It is like you are just walking at the beach. So you see that the sand everywhere, and then you might draw a line or you can draw your name on the sand, but all of a sudden when the waves comes, it's just wiped off, right?
Mhm.
And then it will be just sand. That is what we normally do. I think we can do that. I mean, most of the people can do that. Once the anger or any emotions comes through, you can just control it and then you can let it go, kind of suppress it. The analogy of this sand and the show, what you are writing on the show and all that is something like that. But once you get into that inner peace to your questions, when you let go of everything, it's like somebody is trying to draw a line on water.
Okay. Tell me more about that, drawing line on water.
It won't stay there anymore, right? It won't even give you a glimpse of anger within you because it just doesn't take a. There's a saying we could say that really seen as it is seen. You just see something that's just as it's seen, but you don't take into you. Kind of it's just see, you can respond to it and you know what is going on, right? So with that, your question on specifically on that, okay, how it looks like you're drawing on the water, it's like if I put it in different ways, I've written in the book as well, you will not react to things, you will respond to it. Rather than reacting, you respond to things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It is not like, I know that sometimes the people go for meditation and they get scared because people who's meditating, they're just like zombies, right? Just walking like you don't have to be like that with this. You will be more joyful, more vibrant with this kind of inner peace. And you could deal with people and respond to people rather than reacting to their whatever they do for you or whatever they do for anywhere else either. So that's the inner peace.
Absolutely. Now, it's wonderful to do these practices when we are meditating, when we're reflecting, etc. But how do we use our fictional character, our avatar, we could call it, to respond to the secular world while we are in this state of blissfulness? Because we have
Okay.
got to come up against the secular world from time to time and deal with the secular world issues. How can we do that from our fictional character, from our avatar?
So we are doing all that every day, every time. Everybody is doing that. You always use your avatar or your fictional character always to deal
Mm-hmm.
with things. That's why you get some challenges, some problems, some miseries, all that because of you are using the avatar. My point here is not you're not using your fictional character as you, but you're using the fictional character as the character rather than yourself. So your true self is different,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're responding to whatever happening around the world or around you through your avatar or through your fictional character. Who is doing that? The person who's doing that should be your true self, right? But generally, what happens is your avatar is acting and your avatar is doing this whole thing without giving any recognition to your true self. That's the difference.
Right. So
So
many times we are just on autopilot, right? Going through all of these things the way that we've always done without engaging that core, without engaging that blissfulness.
yeah, that is what we normally do. But when you engage with the blissfulness and then you really practice that last practice I listed out, what will happen is you actually turn around and then you live with your true nature. And the rest of the things, your blissfulness just now come outward. All this time you have to go inward to get to there, right? To identify that and recognize it. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as you recognize it, you are really with it all the time because it's so profound. You will live there without any exception. So once you are living there, you are responding from there through the fictional character, of course, but from there, responding. That's the key word, not reacting.
Not reacting, responding. It's so funny that you talk about this NT because this is something that I've been feeling very much so lately, and other people are starting to notice as well. It's like you're just expressing yourself with so much more joy. And I can't even tell you when that started or precisely what happened, but yeah, living from that space all the time, right?
Yeah, when you're living in that space all the time.
Yeah. If somebody has never lived from that space, what would you tell them about it?
Yeah, definitely that's the title. You are living in a fictional character. So go beyond that. So recognize that you're the fictional character or the self image that you think that is you, but actually you can go beyond that in the sense that you can actually, what you're doing is you are distancing from your mind a little bit. Actually, some people express that this experience like I am living a bit away from my body. Yeah.
Right.
So the key to that is that really he recognized that I or me is not my body, right?
That's right.
It is my attention, my awareness, my noble heart, my inner peace.
Yes.
So it is kind of you are elevating or you are uplifting your awareness to a level that you can see your true self.
Right.
So you live in
Right. So we're
right.
rising up above it and watching the puppet
Exactly.
show
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
from above.
Exactly. Yeah, just like you are in the balcony and then you are looking down, you can see vehicle going down there. So you have that much of a connection. You can see it, but you don't have. That is why you don't need to react to any of those things, but you respond to them. Somebody might wave, you wave them from the balcony,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's the
Having an awareness of the bigger picture, the entire picture at once, if you can.
yeah, yes, exactly. It's like you're opening your aperture of your camera. If you're familiar with the camera mechanism, so mostly what you do is we focus in, like bringing the aperture very close, very smaller, and then you can, just like a flashlight. You do have a flashlight, right? So with the flashlight in the dark, you go and look for it, right? Look for anything what you want to. But all of a sudden, you find that the wall switch for the light, and then you switch on that light. You don't need that flashlight anymore, right?
Right. Yes.
Likewise, that you are living in that true self,
Mhm.
which is lighting the whole room or whole area, so you could see everything, and then
Mhm.
you can just respond to them rather than reacting to them.
See. Now, in observing people in the community, in my circle, in observing people, there are obviously those who do not find their way to this bliss, who still think that they are this fictional character, right? Is it necessary for them to come to this realization, or what kind of life can they live living through that fictional character?
Yes, all depend, Christy, because that some people they want to be successful, have a lot of money and all that. They live that fictional character and they're looking for it. And they'll get satisfaction on some times. And then they go for another one, right? The satisfaction is not actually pure happiness, right? Because satisfaction, of course, it lives only about at the most few days. When your new car is getting old, so that means it's not new car anymore. Your satisfaction has gone and you are looking for the new another car, different model, right? So it is the way it is. And then if some people want to do that way, of course, that's their life and they might enjoy. But I have seen that really when you would have heard some of the bigger stars, like I don't want to name anybody, but I mean the bigger stars, they go for drugs and they go for some substance use and all that because all with that money and everything, but they are not satisfied,
Right.
right? They went for satisfaction, but they are not happy. They are not blissful. Although they might show for a couple of hours or 2, 3 minutes or one day or so, but it goes away because our concepts are changing and we want more than that, right? All the time. And once you get that, that's enough. And then you want to go, it's not enough, then you have to go for another one. So that is how it goes. So it's okay for the day-to-day life that people who's living on that. But my message is to understand that part. And then it can, people will realize that once you get to that level, like having a lot of money, and then you might think, oh, what can I do with this? Kind of, right? But we don't have to spend so much time to get to that realization. That's why this book is going to do. The book is really giving that message to you that you don't need to go that far. You can make your life as it is. You don't have to change your life, but see it in a different perspective. That's what this is going to do for you.
Right. We're not changing we're not changing our names, we're not changing our genders, we're not changing the way that we live. We're just changing the way that we interact with it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
right, right.
Exactly. You got it.
Wonderful. Now, where can people find this book?
Actually, it's going to release on 26th of April from the O-Book site. That is my publisher. But it will be available in everywhere, like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and any bookstore near you. Any bookseller near you will stock this, so you can buy it from them. But most easily, you can go to Amazon or you can go to the obook.com, which is my publisher's website, and you can buy from there. Or you can pre-order from them as well. So
Now, you also have a website, and that is ancientpath.org.
that's right.
Ancientpath.org. We'll put that link in the show notes. And all three of your books are on this website, as well as blog on inner peace, information about the work that you're doing and how to achieve inner peace. Now, before I let you go, I want to just talk to you a little bit about global peace. You include this on your website alongside inner peace. So what do you feel is maybe this is too big of a question, but what do you feel is the difference between that inner peace and global peace, and where do they interact?
Yeah, it's a bigger question. That's right,
It is a big
Christy.
question.
But I do have a very short answer for that.
Oh, good.
That's the solution I am trying to promote since 1992. Actually, when I was in New Zealand, it came to me all this chaos in this world just because of they don't know this little thing that if anybody realizes this little thing that this world will be a peaceful place to live. So that is what I have been working from 1992 for this so many years. And this website was registered at that time when the internet was just coming up, like, it's a dawn of the internet. But I had that intuition all the time. So the smaller answer for this whole global unrest is that every individual have to have that inner peace. So once you get that inner peace, that peacefulness, it will actually radiate to everybody in the world. Let it radiate around you. I have seen most of the time. And in my case, I know that it's radiate to your neighbors, your friends, and then all that. So if you can be one person like that, you would be the beacon for the whole peace, global peace, I would say. So it is that little technique that I am promoting. That is the critical solution. And sometimes it's like a cookie cutter solution. I know that people will say, "Oh, cookie cutter solution that won't work," but this solution will work for sure. I know that because when you have that, when you elevate your attention to the level of your noble heart, and from your noble heart to that your inner peace, you will radiate that blissfulness that you are getting to everybody, and then it will spread around, and then it will actually make yourself peaceful, people around you peaceful, and of course when it's widespread, the global inner peace. I would call inner peace and the global peace as well. That's how it works.
And
So
just
it's a short answer for that long bigger question, but it's in beyond our self-image. The book,
yes, the
when
book.
you read that, it'll work, and then it'll widespread, I would say. That's then my wish. That is my wish.
Absolutely. So, yes, it is possible to cultivate this inner blissfulness, and it
Yeah,
is possible to step outside of the meat suit that we're wearing.
exactly.
Possible to step outside of that to find that inner bliss. Good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, NT. It's a very simple subject, yet one that I think that we don't want to accept a simple answer, but it really is that simple.
Yes. Maybe it's hard to do, but it's a simple answer.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you for having me.
Don't know what to watch next? Decisions. Well, we've got some suggestions. You can click this little video here and watch that. It's something that we think you're going to like. If you like the last one, you're going to like that one too. You can also click on the subscribe button. And if you do that, then you'll get notifications whenever we have a new video up. Win-win, right?